Improvisations that made the final cut. This article has been written by David Sinsadze. 7 totally unplanned great moments in film history. Hollywood scripts are specially known to provide the most comprehensive blueprints of how exactly a scene or a dialogue should look and sound. Almost nothing of what happens on a high-budget movie set is spontaneous. And when it comes to dialogue in particular, in the overwhelming majority of cases, every word of even the most naturalistic, overlapping dialogue is precisely scripted. That said, some of the great directors that work together with great artists often seem to strive for the sense of discovery that comes from the unplanned and unpredictable aspects of human behavior.
You talking to me?
Directors sometimes go to great lengths to get this unplanned reaction from their actors, and the actors themselves frequently show the wits and initiative to expand the scripted moment. These efforts often result in iconic screen moments that end up becoming much more famous than anything else in the movie. Here is a list of 7 moments that hold a very special place in film history thanks to their improvised nature.
You know, you're just funny. It's funny, you know, the way you tell the story and everything.
Funny how?
Leonardo DiCaprio's bloody hand in Django Unchained.
Lay your palm flat on that tabletop!
During one of the movie's most climactic scenes, when DiCaprio's character Calvin Candy smashes his hand on the dinner table, the actor accidentally crushes a small stemmed glass with his palm, which really begins to bleed. DiCaprio ignored it, stayed in character, and continued with the scene. With his hand bleeding quite visibly, DiCaprio kept going, even waving his hand as if using it as a new dramatic prop.
What's it gonna be? May I lift the hands off the tabletop in order to remove my pimple?
Tarantino was so impressed that he used this take in the final print, and when he called cut, the room erupted in a standing ovation. DiCaprio's hand was bandaged, and he suggested the idea of smearing blood on Kerry Washington's face. Both Tarantino and Washington liked this. So Tarantino got some fake blood together, and that's how the scene made the final cut.
The fun part is watching their reaction. Boom, it happened, and then I opened my hand, and then blood starts pouring everywhere. And I saw Jamie go, yeah, like this, and Quentin like had his hand, and he goes.
The unscripted gun scene in The Departed. Martin Scorsese's love of spontaneity started early in his career and has a strong presence in this list as well. However, even he was startled when Jack Nicholson pulled a real gun on Leonardo DiCaprio while filming the I Smell a Rat scene.
This rat, this gnawing, eating fucking rat.
He didn't tell me he had a gun, Scorsese later said. It was great. We took a lot out, but Leo's reaction is real time.
Frank, look at me. Look at me. I'm not the fucking rat, okay?
The prop guy sort of tipped me off that he had a gun and a fire extinguisher and a box of matches and whiskey under the table, and he had no idea what Jack was gonna do, DiCaprio recalled. Nicholson ended up pulling a gun on my face and lighting the table on fire. Nicholson drops the gun, clumsily picks it up with a damn I forgot I even had this thing look after being threatened, and shoves it in DiCaprio's face, taking the threat posed by DiCaprio's character in that moment and immediately rendering it insignificant. DiCaprio, though completely unaware of what was happening, took all this without breaking the scene, probably making it one of the iconic yes and acceptances in the history of improvisation.
You have to sort of roll with the punches, and he's very unpredictable when he's on camera, and then that camera starts rolling, you know anything can happen.
Jack Nicholson's "Here's Johnny" line in The Shining. Stanley Kubrick's 1980 film is undoubtedly one of the greatest and most important horror movies of all time. It sets an unmatched standard in capturing atmosphere and tension that was achieved by means of the strict and almost unbearable, excruciating work put in by some of its cast members.
Then I'll huff, and I'll puff.
Jack Nicholson's character had to be crazy and angry all the time, while Shelley Duvall described her traumatic experiences as her character had to cry 12 hours a day, all day long, the last 9 months straight, 5 or 6 days a week. As controlling as Kubrick was, Nicholson's most famous "Here's Johnny" line when he breaks down the door with an axe is improvised, and younger viewers, as well as non-US residents, might not know that Nicholson is actually referencing The Tonight Show. By 1980, it was a well-known fact that before Johnny Carson stepped out from between those curtains at the beginning of The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, he would be introduced by this very quote, and that has been happening since 1962. So the quote was a piece of American everyday life at the time. Neil Young and his soundtrack of Jarmusch's Dead Man. While it's neither a line nor a performance delivered by an actor, Neil Young's atmospheric guitar score for the 1995 film is an absolute delivery of improvisation and intuitive meditation over Jarmusch's hallucinatory black and white western.
I want him brought here to me. Alive or dead don't matter, though I reckon dead would be easier. The hunt is on.
Neil Young recorded the whole soundtrack alone in a recording studio as he watched the newly edited film and mostly played guitar solo improvisations over the visuals. Equipped with an arsenal of instruments, he stood surrounded by screens of varying sizes as they played an early cut of the film from start to finish. The perfectly imperfect, minimalistic chords and riffs that came out of his guitar were for the most part an extraordinary act of improvisation, which is an ideal spirit guide to Johnny Depp's dark odyssey. Harrison Ford shooting the swordsman in Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, in probably the most famous "don't bring a knife to a gunfight" scene ever shot. Harrison Ford, instead of engaging in an epic duel with a master swordsman in Cairo, simply shoots the guy and moves along. The scene, besides being a perfect screw you moment to the dramatic standards of adventure movies, was also an improvisation by Spielberg and Ford, but not because of artistic aspirations. In the AMA Ask Me Anything, Ford said the scene was actually supposed to be a lengthy sword fight. However, he was suffering from food poisoning at the time, and he could only film scenes in 10-minute increments before having to run to his trailer. So he proposed a shooting solution to Spielberg, who agreed. The result was a happy outcome for everyone, except maybe the British stuntman who had practiced his sword skills for months in order to do the job, and was quite surprised by the idea that he would be dispatched in seconds. As Ford recalled, he flourished his sword. "I pulled out my gun and shot him, and then we went back to England."
So I went up to Stephen as soon as I arrived and I said, Stephen, why don't we just shoot this sumbitch?
Robert De Niro's "You Talking to Me" line in Taxi Driver.
You talking to me?
The iconic "You Talking to Me" line that sealed Travis Bickle's descent into alienation and a crisis of masculinity in one phrase, which remains one of the most recognized lines in modern cinema to this day, which was completely unscripted. Initially, there was not meant to be any dialogue in the scene, and Martin Scorsese recalled asking Robert De Niro if he could say something while looking in the mirror. He kept saying, "You talking to me?" Scorsese remembers. He just kept repeating it. And the assistant director was banging on the door saying, "Come on, we got to get out of here." And I said, "No, this is good. This is good. Give me another minute." It was like a jazz riff, just like a solo. Needless to say, the true extra minutes in that room brought about one of the most memorable lines in film history. Robert De Niro's copy of the Taxi Driver script includes his handwritten notes and provides insight into how he constructed his performance and how his improvisation is incorporated into the filmmaking process. One page shows him as Travis Bickle alone in his apartment. "You talking to me" is recorded only as a note, mirror thing here at the bottom of the page. Joe Pesci's "Funny Like a Clown" scene in Goodfellas.
What do you mean I'm funny? It's funny, you know. It's a good story. It's funny. You're a funny guy.
Martin Scorsese has been often described as a director that prioritizes focusing on the actor rather than the plot or even the characters. This way, the director builds a foundation from which both the plot and the character can spring. No wonder, then, that improvisation and spontaneity are cornerstones of almost every Scorsese film, as he structures the entire film around what this method can bring out in the actors. Goodfellas has no shortage of scenes where the profound acting of Scorsese's A-team set new all-time high stakes, but the funny how scene definitely stands out, as it is a reminder that the psychopathic mind of Tommy can turn at any moment.
But I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you?
The dread and nervousness that Henry shows is due to the fact that in the back of his mind, he knows that Tommy is completely capable of killing him just for a joke that pushed the wrong button in his brain. The entire scene is a textbook example of how a bully's mind works when it smells even the slightest scent of compromise. Tommy is just adding one step of intimidation to another, as the whole room is alarmed that this is ultimately leading to something terrible.
That's it, Henry. That's it, Henry. Come on. Hey, you want to laugh? This prick last week asked me to christen his kid.
Working as a waiter in a New York restaurant as a kid, Pesci once made the mistake of telling a notorious mobster that his joke was funny, and the compliment didn't make the mobster happy. In fact, it angered him. Pesci shared the story with Scorsese, who liked the story so much that he wanted it included into the script. However, he did not tell anyone outside of Pesci and Liotta that the scene would be improvised, because he wanted to see their genuine surprised reactions and the reaction of other actors in the scene. Their surprise turning to fear at a situation that could turn explosive in the blink of an eye is absolutely matching, turning the whole scene into a masterpiece of acting and improvisation.
Yeah, all right, for 7,000 they charge me.
You really are a funny guy.